to Steel City News and welcome to the very first episode of what we call Tomlin Talk. After a Coach Tomlin press conference, some get confused and some wonder, why is Coach Tomlin saying that? That's not what I'm seeing on the field. Well, Coach Tomlin is complex. He's one of the most iconic coaches in the league, who's ever coached in the league. So sometimes things that he says can be confusing to the untrained ear. So it's important to clarify some of these things, or at least give my interpretation of what he's referring to. Now, there was a quote from Coach Tomlin from his press conference on Tuesday, and it was this.
Been really impressive. I think his general growth, if you ask me to summarize the rate of growth, the range of growth, it's been really impressive in all areas, and I think it's reasonable to expect it to continue. He's got to get better and play better each and every week. We expect that. He expects that. And there's a lot of meat on the bone in all areas of his game. But that's not a wild statement because he is a young guy.
Now, obviously, Coach Tomlin is not talking about meat on like a rack of ribs or something you would get from a restaurant. He's talking about skills and abilities and talent. So when he says Kenny Pickett has meat on the bone in all areas, he's saying that he does have talent and abilities in all areas. Now, we know that he needs to refine those, and he will do that over time. And some of you are wondering, why is Coach Tomlin so happy with Kenny Pickett? Because as we've seen in some of the comments, there are many who seem like they're not happy with Kenny Pickett. But Coach Tomlin is very happy with Kenny Pickett from what we can tell and understand, because Kenny Pickett is a rookie quarterback. Now, some of you may benefit from going back and watching some games from the 1970s. You'll see Terry Bradshaw do a lot of turnovers in those games. It wasn't until 1973 that Terry Bradshaw really started to get things moving. Now, there were signs of little sparkles, little sparks throughout those early years, but it wasn't a lot and it wasn't too obvious. But in 1974, we all know what happened. The Pittsburgh Steelers won their first Super Bowl ever, and it really changed things for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is what made the Pittsburgh Steelers who they are today. But in the beginning, things were not looking so good. But Terry Bradshaw had something that was incredible. He had an edge to him. He wasn't afraid to take chances. Those guys knew that Terry Bradshaw was going to throw a lot of interceptions, but they also knew he was going to throw a lot of touchdowns. And eventually he did get to that point where he was throwing more touchdowns than interceptions. When you have a quarterback who has an edge, who's competitive, who wants to win, he's going to reach out there and he's going to take chances. And that is what Kenny Pickett does. And believe me, the Pittsburgh Steelers see that. Coach Tomlin sees that. You can't go by the numbers this season. Seriously, you can't even go by the numbers next season. You got to give this guy time to learn and develop. And like I've always said, yes, we have Mason Rudolph. We have Mitch Trubisky. Those guys can get things done and they can win games as well. But the Pittsburgh Steelers obviously see something different in Kenny Pickett, and I believe it is that edge. It's his willingness to take those chances. He is fearless. You see him take that ball and run. When he is out there in the open field, that's a very risky situation for a quarterback, but he is bold enough to just take that ball and run to extend the play. And that is what you want in your quarterback. So when people keep saying, well, Kenny Pickett's not the guy, he's definitely not the guy, he doesn't have it. Well, he might not be where you want him to be right now, but take a look back at decades before. Take a look at some of those games. Watch Terry Bradshaw. Hall of Fame quarterback. Some people say, well, definitely one of the greatest players ever to set foot on a field as a Pittsburgh Steeler. You need to really look at that, and then you'll get a better understanding of where Coach Tomlin is coming from with this. Well, this is our first episode of Tomlin Talk, clarifying what Coach Tomlin is thinking to the best that we can do. We're not experts, we're not mind readers, and we could be wrong from time to time. But this is what it seems like he is seeing. And that's why he seems to be excited about Kenny Pickett and his performance. Because there are, of course, many that have been doubtful. But if you're doubtful, you may be living in just this past decade and not really seeing the big picture of what Kenny Pickett can be on this team. I'm not saying that he's the guy. I'm not saying that he's not the guy, but he can be the guy. And it is far, far too early to make any decision on that. Just got to watch him play. And if you see that progress game by game, that's exactly what you want. Thanks for watching Steel City News. Remember, if you want up-to-date Pittsburgh Steelers news, information, analysis, and sometimes just talk, you can subscribe right here to our YouTube channel. It really does mean a lot to us. It helps us get this news and information out to you on a regular basis. And hit that bell if you want notifications. Thanks for watching.